Hello everyone, welcome to the conference. My name is linagrustnova and I'm a student of Ural State Medical University. My scientific supervisor is Elena Gайсina, the candidate of Medical Sciences, Associate Professor of the Department of Pharmacology and Clinical Pharmacology. So dear participants of the conference, let me present you a report on the topic 5 scientist founders of experimental pharmacology of the second half of the 19th century in Russia. To begin with, I'd like to say that experimental pharmacology deals with the effects of various test substances studied on different animal species, which is aimed at finding out safe therapeutic agents suitable for public health as well as mechanism and site of action of a test substance. It is the basic step in the discovery of new drugs or studying their pharmacological actions. The first scientist I want to tell you about is Sergey Petrovich. He was born in Moscow in a merchant family, and in 1855 he graduated from the medical faculty of Imperial Moscow University. At the same time, he went to participate in the Crimean War with a medical detachment. There he was lucky to work under the guidance of a great surgeon named Nikolai Pavlov. After that, Botkin worked in St. Petersburg in the therapy clinic of the Medical and Surgical Academy. In 1861, the scientist received the title of professor and he was running the clinic of the academy for a long time. In 1861, he created the first experimental laboratory in Russia at his clinic, where he did analysis and studied the effect of drugs on the body. Botkin had been one of the first people to prove the need of individual approach to every patient. He created the doctrine of the organism as a whole, and he and his colleagues had conducted a wide study of cardiotropic drugs. The scientist also actively studied the effect of salicylic acid on the body in case of rheumatism. So the next scientist I'm going to tell you about is Pavlov Ivan Petrovich. Pavlov was born in Ryazan and he was fond of natural sciences, so he entered St. Petersburg University and the Natural Sciences Department of the Faculty of Physics and Mathematics in 1817. In 1890, Pavlov was elected as a professor of the Department of Pharmacology of the Military Medical Academy, and in 1895, the Department of Physiology, where he had been working for 30 years. In 1893, Pavlov defended his doctoral dissertation about the centrifugal nerves of the heart. He discovered the reinforcing nerve of the heart. This served as an intensive for the development of the doctrine of trophic innervation. So, the scientists had developed a number of new methods of experimental analysis of the effect of drugs. For example, the method of conditioned reflexes in the pharmacology of higher nervous activity, methods of experimental pathology and therapy, physiological methods of studying digestion. In the laboratory of Pavlov, work was carried out on the pharmacology of the cardiovascular system, digestion, and the central nervous system. The scientist is considered one of the founders of psychopharmacology. The third scientist is Krakow Nikolai Pavlovich. He was born in Ryazan and in 1888 he graduated from the university with a degree of candidate of natural sciences. Then he studied in the Imperial Military Medical Academy, from which he graduated with honors. The main works of Krakow are devoted to the study of the effect of medicinal substances on the body, the dependence of the pharmacological effect on the dose or concentration of the substance, and also he combined actions of substances. Krakow believed that drugs would act differently in a sick organism than in a healthy one, so he suggested using experimental pathological models to study the effect of drugs. Using these models, he provided scientific justification for a number of medicinal substances. The scientist researched and put into a practice drug of intravenous anesthesia and proposed the idea of combined chloroform anesthesia. The next one is Savage Vladimir Vasilievich. He was born in Rybinsk in the family of a doctor. Savage graduated from the Military Medical Academy in 1898. During the Russian-Japanese War, he worked at the front as a doctor. After graduation, he continued his research in the laboratories of Pavlov, and since 1924 he has been conducted research of the pharmacology of water metabolism, vegetative innervation, conditioned reflexes, the pharmacology of magnesium, camphor, and turpentine. With a large group of students, Savage studied the patterns of chemotherapeutic action of toxicity over a group of pharmacological substances in a laboratory and in industrial conditions. The hemosporidine and a number of other drugs recommended by him are still widely used in veterinary medicine. Using physiological methods in pharmacology, he solved a number of complex pharmacodynamics issues. Savage studied the problem of pain relief of childbirth and the choice of medicines for treatment of eclampsia. And the last but not least, I'd like to tell you about Likhachov Alexey Alexeyevich. Alexey Alexeyevich Likhachov was born in St. Petersburg, and in 1890 he graduated from the Military Medical Academy. Since 1914, he had been studying chemical warfare agents and their effects on the human body, and also he has been developing measures to protect against them. Likhachov introduced practical classes for students in the experimental pharmacology, organized a laboratory for the biological evaluation of medicines in the Leningrad Chemical and Pharmaceutical Institute. For the first time, he introduced practical classes into academic course of pharmacology. He was one of the founders of the national toxicology of military toxic substances. The scientist also investigated an issues of heat and gas metabolism in humans with fever or under the influence of alcohol. So let me sum up. Experimental pharmacology is the link between theoretical and clinical pharmacology. It forms the basis of existing achievements in the field of pharmacology, and it is of paramount importance for scientific medicine. Russian scientists have made a huge contribution to the development of this direction. Thank you for your attention.